right. Good morning, everybody. Chris Franks with TexasWest Capital. Got my friends Tillman and Andrew sitting in the wings. They'll be on in just a minute. Beards and Bitcoin, we've been doing this, since June, I guess, of last year already. Really enjoying it. Hopefully, y'all are getting a lot out of it and some entertainment along the way because these guys are a couple of cut-ups, especially that Andrew character, man. So, But anyway, make sure you guys hit the thumbs up, hit the like, hit the subscribe, follow the channel, follow us online. You can follow Tillman at TexasOL61. You can follow Andrew at AP_Abacus. And of course, myself at TXWest Capital, all there on X, because that's generally where we tend to hang out more so than anywhere else on social media. But, we do simulcast here. So if you're catching us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, X, wherever it happens to be, Instagram now, we even got that going, a few extra steps for that. But make sure you're following along there, and that way you can keep up with everything we kind of talk about. So let's go ahead and jump into it. We've got Tillman and Andrew here. What's up, guys?
What's going on?
Every time, listen, we usually have a few minutes discussion before the stream goes live. And Tillman always looks so clean and so clear. And then when we go live and I bring him up, he's fuzzy.
I don't know what that. It seems like it's clearing up a little bit, isn't it? It's like my camera has to refocus when you go from 2 to 3 people, I think.
It's as they say, Fuzzy Wuzzy was a bear. Fuzzy Wuzzy had no hair. Right? I think that applies here. Right?
Fuzzy Wuzzy wasn't fuzzy, was he?
And if this is your first time attending, this is what you get. Welcome. We're excited to have you here. Anyway, so hey guys, listen, man, what a crazy weekend. We had Trump come out, Bitcoin strategic reserve on low volatility Sunday, price jumped, skyrocketed up. Friday or Monday comes out, drops back down. All of a sudden he's talking about tariffs, for Canada and whatnot. And then yesterday bounces right back up. Oh, tariffs may be put on hold again, pops back up. And now we've got Nick today mentioning, this idea that Friday Trump's going to come out with the whole Bitcoin strategic reserve strategy at the the crypto
summit.
Yeah, on Friday. And so, I guess we look at it, we go, okay, well, you got a lot of people who are excited about that. They want him to say the thing, right? Because they imagine it's going to pump the bags. But my question is, does Bitcoin even really need that?
No, it doesn't need it. And quite honestly, I think it gives outsiders a reason to point a finger and cast blame. We are that. It's one of those things. It's divisiveness sells. And the things that he's done since he's been in office, he either has a grand plan in mind that is going to solve all of these problems. And let me paint that scenario the way that I envision it. If he includes Ripple or XRP in the strategic reserve, and Ripple gives the strategic reserve $1 billion of the 1 month's distribution, basically, $1 billion gets freed up every month. If you get 1 month of distribution freed up and you give it to the strategic reserve, no different than all the other companies that have had allocation at a discount, or I don't know if there was any absolute gifts, but a lot of allocation at a discount. Well, then guess what? There's nothing that keeps Donald Trump from selling that. If they got $1 billion in the strategic reserve and sold the $1 billion, that would be a nice $2.5 billion head start on buying Bitcoin. And if he did that, I'd be going, genius. That's a plan I can get behind. But if it's about using taxpayer dollars and or any dollars that could be buying Bitcoin and diverting that purchasing power into XRP, I think it's a huge mistake. And so I think a lot of people, he's always getting the headlines because no one knows what he's going to do. And that's a really scary place for
So-
everybody to be in, essentially.
So first of all, I would like to respond to Josh's comment. Okay, so I am the most dad person on this show just by sheer numbers. So let's understand that. But when it comes to the nerd thing, I'd like him to shut his mouth when he's talking to me. Okay, I am not a nerd. I am not a nerd. All right, I'm the coolest guy on this show. No,
That's
question.
what nerds say.
I was about to say, is that what every nerd says?
There's a direct
I mean,
correlation.
the next thing you're going to say is that I've got a big brother.
There's direct correlation between my dad levels and my coolness. And we don't want to go into that on this show, but I'm just going to leave it there. Okay, that's what we're going to leave it there. So Josh, take it elsewhere.
And I will say, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And
yeah, I would agree there. I would agree there.
Could be beautiful in your own mind's eye, but the rest of the world disagree. I'm just saying that is
not true.
That is
I have
one
verifiable
of the degrees
proof
on the dial.
I have verifiable proof. We've gone off the rails.
I'm not saying that's your instance. I'm just saying that is a possibility. It's a non-zero likelihood, is what I would call it.
Here I was thinking when he said first, I'd like to address. I thought for sure it was going to be the XRP thing. I mean, I saw his face as you said XRP, just kind of.
I don't want to let the expletives fly here on this show. You know, I just don't want to talk about XRP. It's a scam in every level that XRP exists.
But you got to tell people why you think that. I think that's
here's the reason
you've
why.
You've been in the industry long enough to know things that they don't know.
The reason why I think it and the reason why I know it is because the company at large does only one thing. It creates a token out of thin air and it sells it every month. And then they take that money and they either pocket it or they use it for some level of influence across the crypto and finance world. Nobody uses XRP in any meaningful way. They announce that we're going to work with this company or that company. More than half the time, it's completely fake. And a year later, that partnership isn't real, isn't happening, nothing's happening. So it's a scam on several levels. And here's the other thing that they do that's nefarious, right? They bring in retail folks because they're good at the conversation and they're good at communication. And then those people, again, they're selling into that world, right? They're selling into those retail folks and they're left holding the bag. So it's a terrible organization. It's a terrible token. It's the worst of crypto. I'm glad
that's a lot to digest. I will say my experience with XRP is it's a really great technology. It's very fast. It's very cheap, very secure. The technology is what actually drove me into liking it at one point. But I do agree with the management assessment that you gave just there. That all came out during the lawsuit, and it was a real eye opener. I read through that lawsuit, and I read through all the evidence of what had transpired behind the curtain. And in the traditional markets, that stuff can't go on. And giving allocation to anyone, and not disclosing that allocation and having no lockup agreement. Like lockup agreements are kind of the most standard thing that you do when you give pre-allocation. It's the same thing when an IPO starts. People who are on the inside have to sign their rights to sell away for a specific period of time or for a schedule so that it's not selling pressure on the price. And I've lived through multiple cycles of XRP, and I swear to you, everyone in the community was going, who's selling? What? It would be in the peak of the bull run, and it would be time for XRP to shine, and we'd get some momentum, and the price would go up, and then all of a sudden you'd just see it crater again, and you're just going, what in the world is going on? Well, that all came out. I'd urge you, if you have any curiosity, go read all the public documents pertaining to discovery around that. But it is mentioned by Donald Trump this week. It has gone up 6x this year. There's all these things that have made it relevant again in the conversation. And the technology is good. But here, I like to boil things down to simple questions of utility, because I do think that that's where this industry is headed, is that if you're, I would argue Bitcoin has found its definition of utility, store of value. Some people disagree with me on that. Some people hate me for saying that. In fact, I think some very popular people out there have said things like, if Bitcoin's only going to be relegated as gold 2.0, it's failed its mission. Jack Dorsey, I think said, or I think he said that. I don't want to misquote somebody, but very, very famous people. And so I disagree with that wholeheartedly. I don't think you're going to ever have the entire world give up on fiat and make the quote Bitcoin standard a reality. Why? Well, it removes a ton of their power. And that's why they have missiles and guns, is to keep their power. And that's not going to change, in my opinion. What can change, though, is that we finally have transparency into an instrument that is a true measure of inflation rate. And inflation rate is fine if your GDP is growing proportionately. There's nothing wrong with inflating your currency into your growth curve, right? That's the whole point of it, is provide liquidity for that growth.
Yeah.
If you're a stagnant economy, non-innovative, can't produce anything of value, inflation can kill you, right? So it's a balance. We've been the most innovative country on the face of the earth since we were created. And to not bet on that continuing is, I don't think, a bet I'm willing to take. And so I think that the growth of Bitcoin as a store of value is going to be, it's built into the financial system DNA at this point. I think the altcoins are going to have to figure out what their utility is. And here's my punchline, Andrew. I know you're chiming in. Man, no. My punchline is this. What can XRP do that Tether can't do better?
Mm-hmm.
XRP was created with this use case before any stable coins were around.
Yeah.
Like this instant dollar equivalent that let everybody settle instant globally. Tether does that, and people are using it for
that's
that.
the point, that they told on themselves because they created their own Ripple stable coin, and they're trying to make that work. So what is it? Is the stable coin is cool now, and XRP isn't the thing that connects the banks and moves money faster? Like, give me a break.
But if Trump got a money grab from Brad, no fault on him. But he better sell it and keep the cash in Bitcoin.
Welcome to Politics 101.
Yeah.
Politics 101. You get in the room, you got to pay to get in the room, and you don't get to say what they do with the money afterwards. And there's no promises.
Well, he got his fair value, because I don't know how much Brad and him sold into the XRP pump off of that tweet, but boy, it was a pump. I mean, what did we go from 208 to
$3?
Yeah,
to $3. It went up to $3. Yeah,
And I think one of the bigger points to make, I guess, about this whole Bitcoin strategic reserve is the idea that that he didn't call it a stockpile, right? Because governments tend to do it in two ways, right? They do stockpiles, and then they do a reserve, right? And so stockpiles generally, when governments do them, generally it's like, hey, we're just gonna kind of, grab them and hold them there. Whereas a strategic reserve, often and most often, I would argue, the government is actually a bit more actively managing that. So the idea that they could buy and sell, rather than just hoarding, which is kind of interesting, especially when you're bringing in what they say. They said Bitcoin, Ethereum, they said XRP, ADA, and what was the fifth one?
Sol,
yeah, Solana. So, it kind of looks interesting there. And so my question is then, do they use Solana, maybe Ethereum, XRP, ADA to maybe kind of what you were talking about at the beginning there, Tillman, you kind of get it in and you sell it, and then you use those maybe to buy more Bitcoin that you actually maybe don't sell, at least,
Well, it's a genius methodology, and I would applaud it, because it creates growth at multiple levels and it accelerates the inevitable. If you truly understand the market, you understand that, let's say you create the crypto reserve fund, right? And let's say you put XRP, ADA, Sol, ETH, and Bitcoin in there, day one. And let's say you prescribe to the notion that you're going to keep it like that for the next 20 years. You're not going to sell anything for 20 years. You know what's going to happen to that fund? It's going to start with a distribution of, let's say they start with 75% Bitcoin and the rest are the 25%. By the end of it, it'll be 99% Bitcoin, because the relative value, the strength curves relative to each other, Bitcoin destroys everything in its path. And it's done it for the last 16 years. So to not bet on that trajectory is a stupid bet, in my opinion. So you could achieve essentially the same thing by just leaving it alone for 20 years.
Yeah.
But why not get some cash out of it and leverage that cash into another winner, i.e. Bitcoin, while it's, quote, at its peak? And so if you believe that Bitcoin is going to gain dominance over these coins for eternity, which I would make the argument it will, because there's no more execution risk in Bitcoin. You can stop mining it today and we got enough to run. So all the rest of them are never going to have that quality. They never have been fairly and equitably distributed. They don't have the network processing power decentralized. Like, there's all these things that are inherent to Bitcoin that make that a foregone conclusion in my mind. But I think if you started the 75% now and you could extract several $1 billion out of the 25% and put it and roll it back into the 75%, and you play the same 20 years out,
Yeah.
man, you that 3.6 billion or what, 5 billion that you can extract out of those coins is now worth what? 500 billion? A trillion?
You know, you mentioned stockpile and you said the word hoard. I don't know if people know this out there, but Tillman's a bit of a hoarder. I mean, I've worked with him on this for a couple of years, made minimal sort of improvements, but that's part of the reason why I moved out to Colorado, a little more space for all the materials that he has. That being said, my guess is, over time, let's call it the next 3 to 6 months, the strategic Bitcoin reserve, it gets watered down and watered down and watered down to, we're going to keep what we have on the books. We're going to keep what we have on the books. We'll make an announcement. We'll do a signing of some sort, whatever, but we're going to keep what we have on the books, because you then don't have to go and get congressional approval for anything, right? Like, how are you going to get through a 2 individual person majority in the House for a Bitcoin strategic reserve? Or Lord knows you're not doing a crypto strategic reserve with ADA and XRP, when those people half of them don't understand Bitcoin. They certainly don't understand this other stuff, right? So you've got a 217 to 215 majority in the House. That's not a priority. That's not getting passed, right? So watered down or not,
but Washington always slips these things in these bundle packages. That's the only thing that I wouldn't bet against it being, a Jekyll Island moment, because if something's a priority to get done from the right people, it gets done. Elon would be one of those examples. Like, if Elon wants to get something done, I don't want to be standing in that path, because he's going to make you look real foolish, because he's going to be working off the premise of logic, and you anything you take offense to against that premise makes you emotional, and logic versus emotion, there's always a clear winner at the end of the day.
Well, and the other, when he first said it, because I remember when Trump first said it, he said strategic reserve, and he mentioned the others, and he says, then he comes back with a tweet later, oh yeah, well, obviously Bitcoin and Ethereum too. And so, one of the things that have been floated around is people saying, okay, well, what if this is like a smokescreen kind of thing, right? Which his intent is only Bitcoin, but he throws the other stuff out there to get you all looking that way, where they can potentially pick up more.
I think the truth is typically found in the simplest explanation, and that sounds pretty complicated to me. You know what sounds really simple to me? That when Brad went to the White House and met with him, he said, I'll give you 1 billion XRP if you include us in the strategic crypto reserve. And that, guess what? Trump's a man of his word. And when he promises something, he delivers on it. And that tweet was the delivery of the promise. That to me sounds like Trump. That to me sounds like what he does on every front, right? It's about tit for tat. If you're good for us, it has to be mutual, is the way Trump looks at it. Like, if you want to be involved, make it mutual. It hadn't been mutual. You've been supporting Kamala this whole time. What are you going to do to make it mutual? I'll give you 1 billion XRP. Okay, that sounds good. Well, how much is that worth, my team? Oh, it's 2.5 billion. Okay, that sounds like an adequate amount. We'll take the deal. What does it involve me doing? Tweeting out to everybody that it's involved in the crypto, reserve fund or whatever.
So Trump's just a KOL now.
Well, I think, listen, he's always been a KOL. That's been, he mastered Twitter and he mastered social media because he had to be that force of nature to combat the false narrative on the other side. And the fact that he won that battle is the most mind-boggling thing. Name me another person that's taken on traditional media, the Associated Press, and won. I've never seen it in my lifetime. Can y'all think of anybody that's literally taken them on
and doing it at almost 80 years old?
That's
a huge shift.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Is it wrong? Is it a mental health thing that whenever I hear or see the phrase KOL, I just get annoyed? Like it's like, who came up with this little thing, KOL?
I can't think of anything but the cool cigarettes from my childhood. That's what comes to my head.
Trump is a force of nature. Like I don't care what you think of him politically. He is the most he's the biggest celebrity on the planet. He's the most well-known individual on the planet. He's the most well-known individual for the last decade on the planet.
From what I can tell, he's the most active person on the planet. Yeah. The guy never stops.
He won a presidency when nobody thought he had even a chance.
Yeah.
And from the beginning, every possible entity attempted to, get him tossed as president. Every possible entity, even some on his own side, survived that. Then when he leaves the presidency, they try to throw him in jail for the rest of his life. Survives all of that. Wins the presidency again with huge numbers. It is truly remarkable stuff. That says nothing about building buildings across the globe of enormous significance, building $1 billion fortune.
And leveraging a brand. If you even think about his real estate empire, it's really brand recognition that he's created. Like, you don't even know the inner workings of each individual real estate deal and how much he owns, but they all say Trump on them.
Yeah.
And people want him to have that on the building because it brings customers in the door. That's the only reason why you'd put it on the building. So he's been a master of this technique forever. But he's now social media has given him a world stage that nothing else could have given him.
And this is something that, I don't know if Tillman's figured out yet, but our company, Arch Public, the two first letters in Arch Public are AP. So I, in the future, I have a move, Andrew Parrish, AP, right? So I'm working on my own brand over here. We're doing things. We'll see where it goes.
Well, learn from Trump. Learn from Trump.
Yeah, learn from Trump.
The fact that you even noticed that tells me that you're a level 10 narcissist. So
listen, I'm just trying to be a KOL. Whatever a KOL is, I want to be part of the group. I'm trying to be a KOL. That's what I'm trying to do.
Well, I think I think here's the thing, though. I mean, great points here, especially with Trump and just his mastery of just brand building and really taking over. All the online and social media and stuff like that. Again, as you were saying, whether you like him or not, if you like Bitcoin, it can't be seen as anything but positive that he says the word Bitcoin.
Yeah.
He delivered the first God candle. He delivered 2 God candles to us in Bitcoin in the same week. It's the first time it's ever been done. An up God candle of $10,000.
Not even in the first week, like in 2 days. And then the third day where it was basically the same thing as well, almost.
Yeah.
So yeah,
you had a great tweet. You had a great tweet yesterday that showed the movement of Bitcoin over the course of the last 24 hours. Well, really over like a 4-hour period. Like it moved from 82 all the way up to, what was it, like 88.5, just
Yeah.
and now again up above 90 since we've been on the show, which again proves my chops as a KOL. So
hey, listen, here's the test. Are you invited to the crypto ball? Because if you're not,
listen, I had to decline. I just had a baby. We just had a baby. I had to decline, C-section and all that stuff. I've got extra things on my plate. I had to decline.
You made a tweet that I didn't agree with, which was that there's a bunch of great people going to this thing. There are some good people, but there's a bunch of slugs too, man. This reminds me of the Michael Saylor 100K party. When I saw that list, I said, yeah, show me anybody in that room that's had a Bitcoin node or a mined Bitcoin a day in their life, and I'll show you no one in that room.
Chris knows this. The KOL game is a tough game. You got to constantly pump out content. You get it from both sides. Your business partner doesn't like your tweet. Other people actually do like it. It is what it is. It's a
Listen,
tough deal.
I'm going to tell you something that my mom told me, and you should take this advice. Okay. It's better to be hated for who you are than liked for who you're not. Okay, take that and
feels like remarkably circular reasoning. I barely understand it, to be honest. I'm sure if I can take that in.
Put it in the chat GPT.
That's a circle of some sort.
Chat GPT, Tillman told me this today. What does it mean? I know that's your morning routine, so you just put it in it for tomorrow.
Yeah, and it's for me, again, kind of out there, and I've fought a lot. So it's funny, I've been kind of public on Twitter and whatnot, social media there since right about I guess it was my second year of law school.
Mm-hmm.
So it was around 2017.
Mm-hmm.
And I had multiple opportunities along the way to like push some kind of coin and this and that, and never took it. I've never actually took it. The only thing I've ever pushed like consistently is Bitcoin.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, I actually had somebody one time tell me that I was manipulating the price of Bitcoin. I think I had like 30,000 followers at the time. I don't know how much money he thought I had. I mean, I'm not doing bad, but
but that guy just doesn't understand.
Send the price of Bitcoin up or down.
That guy needs to start mining. He'll understand. There's one party in the sell position, in the sell seat. There's one party that can sell Bitcoin first. It's the miners.
Yep.
They're the first sellers. Miners control. Back in those days, miners controlled the price. They did whatever they wanted. If they sold, price went down. If they didn't, if they held, price went up.
Yeah, yeah. And now, of course, they have all this leveraging and all this MicroStrategy kind of idea. What strategy idea now? They've got all these different ways that they can actually fund their business now that they didn't really have to anywhere near the extent they do today back then. So like you're saying, it was like, listen, we had to sell because we had bills we had to pay. And now it's like, well, we got bills we got to pay, but let's just get them paid this way instead and hold on to Bitcoin longer, which I think ends up being a really big boost to Bitcoin itself. Because now they can hold on longer. They can actually make profits when they do sell. They don't have to sell, right there when they need it. It works out really well.
Well, you change market makers as a market evolves and grows. Market makers have to be more and more sophisticated and have deeper and deeper liquidity pockets to serve the markets. So the larger the market grows, the richer the market maker has to be to serve that market. Bitcoin started with the market maker being the miners. They were the ones that controlled the price. They had huge allocation of coins because the mining block reward was very, very high, and there was very few miners. So they all got disproportionately rich in Bitcoin because they were a huge portion of the network at that time. Well, if you look at like that graduated scale, right now you are using huge infrastructure, huge cost to mine a fraction of the Bitcoin that those guys did. So as the market evolves, they lost control as the market maker. The miners don't dictate the price. All the miners could sell every day all that they mine, and it still wouldn't be a blip compared to what the demand is on just the ETFs alone. So they've lost control. So then it went to the exchanges. The exchanges held so much and traded their own book so much during the next phase of the crypto, kind of evolution, that they were the market makers.
Yeah.
And now you see Wall Street as the market maker. And, yeah. The guys with the deepest pockets on the earth, and that means we're at the big leagues. There's no next level. This is the top level of the game.
Yeah, and hey guys, listen, I know you've heard us, those of you who've been following us for since June of last year. I know you've heard us multiple times talk about, listen, this is likely where Bitcoin's headed. And we've had discussions about self-custody and bank custody and products that derive from the latter and stuff like that. But I would like to point out, that when you look at who we are, a lot of you said, oh, you guys don't really understand and you're not really holders and whatnot. I want to point you to Andrew's tweet. I think it was just a couple of days ago where he talked about, listen, you should be, holding your own Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So, I saw that come out there. I was like, man, it's so perfect that they came out, because we do get hit a lot of times with people that are very, we expect the emotional reaction, right? Because you're coming in, you're buying into what Bitcoin is in the white paper. And, you're also trying to look at using that to hopefully make money on it as well. But, again, our goal here has always been just to tell you, from our experience and, what we have with TradFi and Bitcoin and mining and markets and everything, what's the most likely thing to happen. And I think you can really look at this and maybe even come quicker than we thought it would. But, where we're at today compared to when we started the show back in June is just absolutely huge. And a lot of it, if you guys have been paying attention, is a lot of the stuff, especially that Tillman and Andrew here have spoken about along the way. And so, but I just want you to understand that us as Bitcoiners ourselves, we do happen to hold Bitcoin ourselves, right? We, that's what we do. And so just because we say this is the way things are likely to go, doesn't mean that necessarily that we're out there jumping on that bandwagon, or at least not at the moment, right?
Well, I've learned my lesson in Bitcoin. Like, I don't get overextended, but I also believe it's a necessary component to everyone's portfolio. A necessary. It would be no different than your proximity to a gun as being a necessary component to your world. It's owning a gun isn't for everybody, but your proximity to a gun is determines the level of safety you have in life. Your ability in the United States to call 911 and people with guns that come rushing, that's proximity to a gun. So Bitcoin is very similar in that nature, that you need to have proximity to it. And you can get as close as you want. You can be a master of firearms and teach classes every day and pour yourself into the industry, or you can have a friend that teaches you how to buy ETFs and you include the ETFs in your traditional brokerage account. I had a conversation with a guy the other day. He's never owned Bitcoin individually, never put it on a cold storage, but he has a considerable position in ETFs and he considers himself a Bitcoiner. And so do I. That doesn't mean that I don't encourage him to play with wallets. You should understand the technology that you're betting on. And the only way to understand it is to use it. And it gives you a very, very steep learning curve that if you like steep learning curves, you're going to find very appealing. You're going to learn a lot in a very short period of time.
Yeah, no doubt. And but how many people today really like learning curves at all, much less steep ones, right? It's like, if it requires a bit of effort, it seems like people today generally are kind of like, if that's going to take more than 5 seconds for me to look at, which is why TikTok is so well, big, right? You get the really short videos.
Again, notice that Tillman used the phrase wallets plural, right? That's another little window into some of his hoarding issues. I don't know how many wallets he has at this point, but it's too many, right? I said, listen, let's back down to about 3. We don't need 33. But I do what I can, I really can. So
listen, every single wallet has unique characteristics to it. Some of them have 12-word mimic seed phrase functionality. Some have 24-word. Like, I like learning. I spend dollars buying products from people who create crypto products so that I can evaluate them on their own merits, and so that they can teach me something, because they obviously saw a niche in the market that they were, or a problem in the market they were trying to solve with the creation of the product. And you know what? I think that the Ledger wallet and the nuances of the hacks and the problems that they've had versus like the Trezor or some of the Bitcoin only wallets, I think it's fascinating. I dive into that type of stuff because I really like to understand that nuance, because there's things that have plagued me from a questions perspective um, throughout my Bitcoin journey that I've never really, some of them I've never got the answer to. And, you know, one of those questions that I had early on when I started using a wallet was, is this mimic seed phrase? This is obviously a chosen list of words, right? There's a limited number of words that are on the list that the protocol can choose to create that 12 or 24 word code. Are those lists different between SegWit? Like, are they different as the chain evolves? And are they making improvements to the chain that change the functionality of old wallets and old seed phrases with the new chain? Were they backwards compatible, or did I have a risk in putting my seed phrase in one of these branded wallets, and then me burying it for 15 years or 20 years, and then they've got 50 iterations of software improvements and hardware improvements by the time I want to get it off, and there's no way. It's like trying to plug in a whole old hard drive. Doesn't work anymore. Like, there's nowhere to plug it in. No one's even using USB-C anymore. You know what I mean? Like those.
This sounds like a big way of Tillman telling Andrew to just shut his mouth when he's looking at him.
No. Hold on a second. I'm gonna try and lay off the Tillman jokes after we talk about his pen collection and the different colors of ink that he uses. But moving on from that, I will go to Tom Lee and some of his comments earlier this week, right? And here's the money shot as it relates to owning Bitcoin and owning as much of it as you possibly can versus any other crypto asset. You know, Tom Lee talked about, hey, we're probably in a range that could be 105 to 62, but at some point this year we break out of it and we go significantly beyond 150K. And he said, here's just one of the reasons why. Citadel is here. Citadel is going to be making a market, and they will quickly become the biggest market maker in Bitcoin. And that means that Bitcoin as an asset is now enormously more available to the massive pools of capital and liquidity across the globe. So Citadel has arrived. They're going to be a market maker. And that's the only point he needed to make.
But it is the only point. I mean, if Citadel's involved, they're interested in one thing: processing transactions. That's all they want to see is order flow. And they don't even come to the party unless they know there's a lot of people at the party.
And just so people know, when Tillman writes something like that down, it's in green ink, because
that's right. Anything related to growth is green.
Yeah, it's a green
Anything
ink
related to, people doing bad things, like all of the comments Andrew has said on this show today will be written in my red book with red ink. Like
process hacks, folks. You want to know how you become successful? Green ink for growth, red ink for
problems. Problem.
The other side, right?
Purple ink for vision. That's color.
Purple ink for vision. All right. Well, there you guys go.
Royalty.
If you want to be successful like Tillman, he just told y'all how to do it. Green, red,
I love this show so much. I'm telling you.
I'll tell you, let me tell you something. There's something about writing that I will share with you both, and the audience. So I believe, this is my personal belief, that when you talk about the difference between humans and animals and plants, and like, they're all living creatures, but there's something different with the human beings. And I think that the thing that we all can agree on is that we like, as human beings, to create, and we like to explore beyond creation and to invent. And that, to me, is like what God did when he created the earth. And that's why we're created in his image. That's the divine part of humans, is that we love to break down things and we love to expand things, and we like to push those as far as we can within our limited lifetime. Well, writing is where you take the thoughts that are coming to you in the undefinable part of yourself, the divine part of yourself. It's the part that is inside of us that is our thoughts. And you're then taking those thoughts and you're putting them into this reality for the first time. And there's something exceptionally powerful about that. That's been the way that human beings have transferred knowledge since the beginning of time. And so, I do encourage, and I encourage my kids to journal, to write things out. And especially if you have them set as goals in your life, there's something very powerful about writing a goal down and putting it in a place where you see it a lot.
Well, I mean, listen, if it just needs to be said, Tillman is using a rainbow of colors in terms of his writing.
I only have
rainbow of colors.
1, 2, 3,
You're gonna make him get up now.
I only have 6 different colors. Okay,
Yeah.
so
Only 6.
He's got the Roy G. He's got the Roy G. Biv of pen.
That's right. That's right. And that's one of our followers, by the way. And I've had DM messages with him. He's a cool guy.
Yeah.
His name on Twitter is Roy G. Biv.
Yeah. I think he's over in the UK, right?
Yeah.
Over Canada. Wait, no, UK, right?
He's on the UK. Yeah. He's in the UK.
Yeah. But I like what you said though about writing goals, because that's something that I also do. And it's something that I push my son, who is about to be 14. Jeez, always. Anyway, something I post, I push him to do every day as well as read. But I also notice it's the same thing that Gary and Grant Cardone also, mention, is this idea that you write down those goals and you keep writing down those goals. And, I got to put it out here, guys. Listen, regardless of what you think of any of us individually, the fact is we're all really successful. And that this seems to be one of the very, obviously there's multiple things that we seem to see eye to eye on, but this is one of those things that we all do. And so, I think, if you're kind of sitting there going, man, well, I'd like to be successful at something. I'd like to do really well at something, maybe my job, maybe start a business, whatever, maybe an instrument, whatever it happens to be. I think, again, it's something we've always done, I think, throughout time, which is you mimic what those before you who are doing the things that you want to do have done. And so I'm glad that you brought that up about goals, man, because again, I'm so used to doing it that I don't even think about it until something like that where you mention it.
This is my pen collection. You see the little thing is clipped off because you play with it too much and it breaks. Right.
You must not think a lot of your thoughts. That's
no,
what I say.
I don't. What I do is I put them out in tweets, and then my business partner disagrees with those thoughts. All right, I'm okay with that.
This is one of the pens that I write. Yeah, I really like the.
I feel like some sort of strange crown came with that pen that you're not showing us, right? There's a head dressing of some sort, right? Was there a
sword?
Head
it's a sword. A sword.
A sword came with it.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
That makes sense.
I can't even, back when I conceived of this show, over half a year ago, I could never have, what just happened. I couldn't. But always excited to have you guys here anyway. I think it makes what we do fun, right? Because, when you talk about subjects like finance, and let's face it, Bitcoin is finance, right?
Mm-hmm, yep.
It can often get really boring for a lot of people, right? Mm-hmm. And I think, we kind of keep people a little, at least we kind of keep them holding on a little bit longer with this comedy along the way.
Listen, life is lived in the valleys, right? The peaks are really small and tiny, and you don't spend much time, in moments that are euphoric. And so life is lived in the general humdrum. And so you've got to find a way to enjoy yourself, in the mundane moments of life. And that's what humor is about. My mind is filled with way too many movie quotes, all of which may not make a ton of sense to most people, but they make all the sense to me. And, I have this bad habit of my synapses fire so fast that I know the joke that I'm about to tell, and I'm already laughing at the joke because I like it. I don't care what anybody else thinks. I like the joke, and it's funny to me.
Okay, narcissist level 11.
Yeah, I
We
mean, it's
just went
11.
up a notch.
This is KOL 101. This is what it is. And so, yeah, living life with humor and enjoying things is it's part of what it's part of
Let me
it
sum it up
makes
best for
being.
Andrew and everyone else in the audience. Laughter's the best medicine.
It is.
Okay,
It really
just
is.
take your daily dose of it, and
Yeah,
it's good for
it
you.
really is, and especially because all three of us on this call are in the midst of building businesses and have built businesses, started from scratch.
Yeah.
It is hard work.
Yeah.
It is
It's brutal.
hard to do. It's very hard to do. So, having a reasonable sense of humor about the process and the people.
It's the only thing that gets you through it.
Yeah, it's the only thing that gets you through, else you're not able to do it. So.
Yeah, that's like when Bitcoin used to crash 90%. You just would call and laugh with other Bitcoin maxis and go, "How much are you buying now?" That's the only thing you can do, is kind of just laugh at your own stupidity in life. That life is not up straight up and to the right. It is a lot of ups and downs, and even if you have everything put together, there are variables that are outside of your control that can really take you down. I've had those health variables with family members, and you got to bring people around you that lift you up in spirit, and that's the way the joy is critical when you're trying to get through hardship.
Absolutely. I mean, if you've never built anything or you've never been like closely around somebody who has, you don't understand how much stress, time, effort goes into it. You're starting out for years, bootstrapping everything. You're working 15 hours, 18 hours a day, 7 days a week. Just to get it going. And, people end up seeing the end result. They're like, oh, look, overnight success kind of thing. I've got friends in the music business who I watched tour, through the local dives. You got 25 people showing up to a show day after day after day, 300 days out of the year for 10 years. And then they built up the audience. They finally, fix their chops. They've got it going good. And somebody's like, oh, look at you out of nowhere. Overnight success. No, people don't see that what's going on. Well, and Bitcoin's been going through that.
We only see the edges of the spectrum, right? And so what we tend to focus on are the people like Elon Musk, who he's hit at every roll of the table. He's never not hit. His every venture has been compounding on itself through massive exit liquidity events, and he's able to roll that into another vision that's just as relevant and powerful, and he's able to make that money grow at a rate that is, it's unheard of. It's not like anything, but we look at that and think that's the story of everyone who's rich and successful. No, if you look into the data will tell you that the vast majority of people that you would consider wealthy have had 7 failed businesses before they found the one that was the 8th successful one. And living through 7 failed businesses and getting up in the next morning to start the 8th business is the characteristic that's needed to be wealthy. It's just the perseverance until you find the right thing for the market, because the market dictates whether you're successful, not you. And you start the business. So when you start any business, you're going, oh, this is going to be successful because I think that it's going to be successful. Well, the market doesn't care what you think. The market's going to decide whether you're successful on its own. And if you're good at recognizing that, like Elon is, supply demand dynamics, then maybe you can luck out on the first 1, 2, 3. But boy, the most successful people I know, I knew Red McCombs pretty well compared to what I ever expected to in my life. He was a big donor at University of Texas, and he had us out to his ranch when I played there, and we got to pick his brain, and he spoke to us a lot. And that's a man who was a billionaire, and went bankrupt and lost it all, and became a billionaire again in a completely separate industry. That's not luck. That's grit. And that is just learning from your mistakes and duplicating successful behavior habits in a high demand market. That's really what it amounts to.
Yeah, Mark was asking what was his name. It's Red McCombs.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did I say?
No, he was asking. He was just clarifying what his name was.
Oh, yeah.
I grew up in Michigan. There's just kind of a famous story, and back in the 80s, 90s, and a little bit of the 2000s, Amway was a fairly big name, and everybody had come across Amway in some way, shape, or form with home goods and all that stuff. And I lived about 5 minutes from Amway's international headquarters in the Grand Rapids area. And Van Andel and DeVos started that company, but it was well known that they went bankrupt 4 times. 4 different times trying to get that business off the ground, declared bankruptcy 4 times, and then finally it took off. I mean, that's remarkable perseverance type of stuff, and it's that's the type of thing that says you persevere, so that when things start to move, you're not, generally speaking, satisfied with just enough. You want to keep going. You're like, listen, I have literally crawled through the mud for several years. I'm not going to be happy with one decent year.
And you have to have conviction in the utility that service is providing the world. Like, you have to really believe in what they're delivering. FedEx is another good example of that. I can't remember how many burnout rounds they had, but just for people who don't understand what a burnout round is the earliest investors in FedEx. Let's say I gave $1 million, Series A. They ran out of money, and they came back to the investors and said, hey, put more money in or you're out. And I either wrote the check for round 2 or I didn't. And if I didn't, then I'm out. Well, they had like 8 burnout rounds where if you didn't stay on the wagon through 8 cash calls, you were out. And I'm sure there was certain people that didn't make the 8th round, and they were 1 round away from being a huge equity owner.
Well, there's that famous story about FedEx where Fred, I can't remember his last name, but
Fred Smith.
Fred Smith was the founder. I mean, they were about to run out of money, and he basically went to a blackjack table or a casino or something and made like $400,000 off of $10,000, and that effectively saved the company in the moment. So it's entrepreneurial endeavors are not for the weak of mind or heart or body.
And trading is an entrepreneurial endeavor. That got a good segue back into what kind of this show is about. Is like, when you're trading, you have to learn from your mistakes. You have to accept your mistakes. You have to be brutally honest with yourself. You can't come into the market. Like, if you're a trader that says, I'm going to trade between 10 a.m. and 11 a.m. every day, you're telling the market when you're going to trade. That's a bad stance from the jump. Like, the market tells you when you should trade. You should start with the question of, when should I trade? Oh, great market, and do a bunch of regression analysis to find that answer. Right? It's not like you don't get to make the rules. Nobody cares about your rules. And another thing that people I see very beginner traders do is they go, I have a goal of making $1,000 a day. That goal is going to screw you out of a lot of money, because the market doesn't care. The market doesn't know what your relative profit and loss is in your trade. And so why are you using something that's only indicative of your emotion to make your decisions off of? A bad decision making.
Yeah, and this is all great because this is one of those wounds we can talk about here. Remember 3 Arrows Capital? And once the big implosion, they were the catalyst. They're over leveraged, lending out. I mean, they were part of the overall problem, right?
Yeah.
But it was their going down that really kind of chain reacting, setting everything off. And they came back afterward and they were doing that stuff. And people were like, who the hell is going to give them money? Well, people are going to give them money because they've failed, right? Like, if I'm over here, if I'm hiring a trader for TWC, and they tell me, oh, I've never lost, blah, 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 I want nothing to do with you. Because, well, first of all, one, you're probably lying. But let's say you aren't lying. Let's say you've never lost. Well, that is the biggest part of trading, is understanding losing. And I am not willing to put money into you And for you to come in without having lost, without understanding what it means to lose. And the bigger you've lost, the more important it becomes. And what I mean is not bigger just in static numbers, but in relative to your status, relative to your financial.
I couldn't agree more.
Level. What was that?
I will add one caveat to that. You should add this caveat to, if you haven't lost, I would have heard of you.
Yeah.
Because there are some people that haven't lost, and we've all heard of them. We know who they are. And they're not. If you go on a winning streak just that's lucky, and you're like Elon Musk, not Elon Musk is lucky, but I'm just saying he's lucky in the fact that every one of his exits has been a compounding event. He's never taken a pay cut. He's never built something smaller in the sequence. He's always gone larger and larger. If you're like that, then you're one of the very rare minorities. Like it just doesn't happen like that.
Yeah. But when it comes to trading, I tell you, I can promise you, it's not going to be you. I'm telling you now. I don't care how much you think of yourself, how special you think you are. I've been around 30, going on 31 years doing this. Tens of thousands of traders and investors of all walks of life I've met over time. I have never met anybody that has never lost, unless it was their first day and they haven't traded yet.
Yeah.
And so, again, you learn a lot, and I would argue you learn a lot more from losing, whether it's in trading, whether it's in business. You learn those things. And on top of that, you learn, do I have what it takes to be successful? Do I pick myself back up? Do I dust myself back off and try again? And do I apply what I learned? Did I learn something? If you're losing and you're not learning, what the hell are you doing? I mean, at least if you're learning something, you're paying for a lesson. You're going to, but at least you're learning it, right? But if you're not learning anything, what the hell are you doing? Why are you even trying again? And y'all need to keep this in mind when you're out there, again, whether it's trading, investing, business, all these things, because that losing part, if you learn from it, is really what's going to define you, especially if it's a significant loss or, heaven forbid, a catastrophic loss. Because if you can pull yourself back up from something like that, the reality of it is you're probably going to do something spectacular.
Well, let's expand upon that, because I think the only way you can pull yourself up off of that is to have confidence in your decision-making matrix. And it's similar to poker, right? If me and you are heads up in poker and we're through all of the river's been shown and you move all in on me, I know there's no more variables to determine. I've got 2 cards and there's 5 cards in front of me. And I know the probability, if my hand is called the proverbial nuts, that you cannot beat me. I'm locked. I've got the best possible hand. If I've got a royal flush, I don't have to sweat it. I can go all in and call you, right? Yeah. And there's no chance I can lose. Anything off of the royal flush, though, there's a probability of me losing. Okay. Yeah. So a trade is very similar to that. Is like you're taking probabilities. And if you don't understand the probabilities that you're involved in, if you're playing on emotion, like you raise me all in and I'm not going to let you bully me and I go all in to match you, I could still win because I've got the royal flush. But I didn't win because I understood the statistical chance of me winning. And there's a big difference there. And so when I go into trades, it's like, I want to understand the statistical probability of me winning. And I want to know exactly what my exit strategy is in the event that I'm a loser. And so poker is very similar to that. Why? Because if I know I have a 78% chance of winning and you go all in on me, I'm calling you all day, every day. And no one at the table is going to fault me for that call. I'm not going to beat myself up for losing that hand. If I lose it, I'm going to go home and go, yeah, I called, there was one hand out there that could beat me and he had it. And that's statistically, 22% probability. I'll take those odds any day of the week. You know what I'm saying? Like, it gives you confidence that you played correctly, even though you lost. And you have to have that confidence going into trading. You can't go into a trade going, I kind of don't know what I'm doing, or, man, this looks good because the price is moving. Those aren't good good things. You should be going into trades going, I have a 2-to-1 profit potential on this trade, and I have a very, very clear break point for my stop loss. And you should bake those into your psyche to where you really, when they get violated, when the profit gets more than 2-to-1, you're not selling yourself, this could go to 3-to-1, I'm leaving money on the table, and that's how you get hurt. And then conversely, if it breaks your stop loss, you're going, well, it's going to bounce back, it's a little bit below my stop. That's how you get hurt too. You got to be like a robot.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is one of the hardest things that I have. I know we got to get going here, but one of the hardest things that is for me to teach, new traders or those who have not yet been consistently profitable, is that trading is simple, but it's not easy, right? Because it's simple. You're just basically going liquidity to liquidity. It's really all it is.
Yep.
But it's not easy because as human beings, especially in the markets, we don't want to do the things we have to do to create and maintain success. We don't want to have to get serious about risk management. We want to YOLO and gamble and throw it all in on red. That's where the issue comes from.
We want to be in the crowd.
Yeah.
We don't want to be by ourselves. And unfortunately, the further you are away from the crowd, the better your entry price is and the more money you're going to make. Because when everyone's selling and you're buying, you're the minority. You have the most potential in that position, but it's also the most scary, the most risky, the most dangerous. But if you get good at living in the minority, you're moving opposite the trend, which is what you want to do in trading. You want to move opposite the crowd. You want to be buying when everyone's selling and selling when everyone's buying. And you want to be doing it, in my opinion, at triage points all the entire way up the ladder and entire way down the ladder to smooth your risk curve out, essentially. So
yeah, laddering in and out is a great thing to do. If you guys aren't doing that and you're struggling with being successful, I can all but guarantee that one of the issues you have consistently is, I was waiting for it. It stopped just before my target. And I was like, oh, it's just got to go up that extra, a 0.25%. And you have like a 3R trade, right? It's got to go up like 0.25 higher to get it. And instead of taking profits, or at least taking some profits and moving stop loss up to break even, you're just kind of letting it pull back, and then it wipes you out.
If you're 95% to your target, you should be, in my opinion, 75% liquidated.
Yeah, exactly. Don't wait till you may not get your target. You may have the correct target, but oftentimes the markets will front run you, and it'll stop you just prior to that. We had a trade that I did not too long ago, an upstart. And it came up to it was like 99% of the target. And then it pulled back, and now it's back below the stop loss. But I always teach everybody, say, listen, I'm like, here's the target, but you should be out, 2 to 5% before that target, because you want to sell into strength anyway, right? You want to sell when everybody's trying to buy you up there. Stop trying to hit your exact target, folks. Get near it, get out, and better yet, take profits along the way. Take 25% here, 25% there, whatever, 50, 25, 25. Make sure you're doing something where you're locking in some profits, just in case, one, you're wrong, or two, something happens. Maybe your target isn't great, or maybe your target's spot on, but you get front run.
Well, your target is just that. It's your target. The market doesn't know what it is.
Market doesn't care. Yeah.
The market doesn't care what your target is. And so the point is, when you took that position, you were betting on the momentum or the movement of that position in one direction. Let's say it's a long. And let's say I started $100 price and my price target's 110, right? 10% profit potential, and let's say it gets to 109, starts to peak out, that's not even the time to where you dump 90% of your position. You should have been dumping 20% of your position when you were at 107. You should be dumping another 30% of your position when you're at 108. You need to be exiting the top part of the curve. And let's say it doesn't hit 110 and it goes to 109.99 and it pulls back down and drops back down to 102. Well, I should be puking that 102. I should puke that 102 up, and it should be 10% or less of that position. Like it's meaningless. It's still a winning trade for me. I won. I got out 90% of my profits at 107 or above. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's triaging out.
Man, this is exactly what I mean. Trading is simple. It's not easy because we want to get in at the perfect entry. We want to get out at the perfect exit. And these are things that as human beings, we all do. We have to, one of the biggest things for me, and I know we got to go here, I'm going to get out. But one of the big things for me was, again, growing up, my father was career Navy guy, non-commissioned officer, whatever. So my life growing up was, listen, you need to get things perfect. I'm not going to tell you how. I expect you to do it, though. And if you don't do it, there's going to be punishment. That was my life growing up. So getting into the markets, my biggest change was the way in which I was thinking. I could not, because I was taught that I had to be perfect. I was thinking at the beginning, I had to nail the absolute low. I had to nail the absolute high. And really trading is the complete opposite of that. It's exactly what we're talking about now. Ladder out, ladder in. It increases the odds significantly that you're going to, at worst, break even, but more likely at least be somewhat profitable, at least if it's going in the direction that you expected it to go, rather than waiting for it to hit that target and it stops short and then nosedives the other way. And not only do you not get out of break even, but it hits your stop loss. So you could have had a significant profit along the way, but instead you lost all that and lost money. So, if you're out there, guys, if you're out there trading, investing, stuff like that, keep these things in mind. It really is all about your mental, your emotional side of it. That is your biggest determinant to whether you're going to be successful or not. Any monkey can learn to do the steps or the guidelines, the rules that are required in a specific trading strategy, but to actually be able to pull them off consistently, that's a whole mind shift that you have to do that most retail never do. And unfortunately, it is what it is. That's why most lose money while they're in the markets, guys. It's not that you can't make money. It's not that you have to be super smart. I have friends that didn't even graduate high school that are living lives that most of y'all are wishing you were living because they've done well in the markets. It doesn't take a lot of brains out there. It just takes the understanding that you really, most of your loss, the biggest side of your loss is going to come from your mindset.
And accepting the loss, like you need to go into it thinking you're going to lose because you are. Trading makes fools out of all of us. The market is there's an old saying: the market can stay irrational longer than you can stay solvent, and it means it's bigger than you. You can't. So it's like riding a whale, and it goes under. It can hold its breath longer than you can. And if it doesn't surface, you're screwed 100 feet under the water and it's not screwed. So you need to manage your breath very carefully and your depth very carefully. If the whale starts going too deep and you start going, I wonder if I have enough breath to get back to the surface, you're in the position too deep, and that you get the exact same emotion from that.
Well, and I want to say here, I want to give a disclaimer here, guys, before we go. Even though you just heard what Tillman said, and now you think you're a master whale rider, do not try it. Okay, we are not telling you to go ride whales and hold on and you figure all that out. Okay.
Listen, that was my Texas analogy of the day.
Anyway. Oh man, so we've gone over here a bit. Andrew had to jump a little bit earlier. He's got a lot of calls today with Arch Public there. If you guys haven't checked out Arch Public, do it. Archpublic.com. You can follow him on Twitter at TryArchPublic. Follow, follow Tillman here at TexasOL61. He's guaranteed to post something that'll probably piss you off, and that's what makes it fun. Follow Andrew at AP_abacus. He seems to have a lot of followers that aren't too happy with him. By the way, Tillman, I saw that you are making it, my man. I saw that you have somebody pretending to be you.
Oh, really?
So I
I'm
only
a
saw one.
KOL.
But
does that get me into the KOL status? Is that
hey,
I only have
there
like
you go. It's
13
what
or
you need,
1400
man.
followers. I don't think I play nice on Twitter enough to be viral or get any real followers. So
You got somebody acting like you, man. Using your old picture, by the way, not your dapper new one.
Oh,
Using
really?
the previous one.
Oh, I have to go check them out and tell them thanks for the flattery. Imitation is the best form of flattery. From where
There
I
you
come
go.
from.
There you go. All right. Hey, we appreciate you guys joining us as always. Follow me at TXWest Capital there on Twitter, X, whatever. You can join us or at least check out what we have to offer there at TexasWestCapital.com. We've got expansion coming, a lot of stuff coming along the way. I've also got a show that I'm going to be doing soon on terrestrial TV, believe it or not. And then I'll be posting it also. I'm going to create a new YouTube channel for it as well. Another kind of Bitcoin show, taking a different approach to it. And so I'm gonna see if I can get these guys on there, join me every once in a while, at least as well. Yeah, so lots of opportunity out there.
I think that's really important, by the way. I do the same thing as much as I can. I'm on a radio show in Houston, the Michael Berry show sometimes. And I think we get caught in the ecosystems of crypto Twitter. And we got to get the message out to everybody. So bravo, good job. Looking forward to tuning in. That'll be good.
Exactly. So follow us, share the links, leave a comment, hit the like, hit the thumbs up. Come on, guys. It takes like half a second to do it. You can do it. You can do it, little Nicky. Anyway, where's Andrew, man? There's this line.
Probably on a call or dealing with his newborn baby. So he's got lots to do over there.
Yeah, he does. All right, man. Well, hey, loved having you guys here again, as always. Another 1,500 plus people watching us live. Appreciate you guys tuning in. And hopefully you enjoyed the show. Again, if you have questions or if you have suggestions about things to talk about related to Bitcoin and whatnot, and TradFi's entry into Bitcoin and all these fun things, and even the political side of Bitcoin.
I'll tell you, I had an interesting conversation with a listener of ours that I've been talking to offline, and I had a conference call with him today. I don't want to blast his name out until I get permission, but long and short of it is that it was a great conversation. He had so many questions about specific protocols that we could dig into. So if you guys want to understand the difference between XRP and how its consensus mechanism works versus Bitcoin, those types of things take long sessions to discuss, and it'll be interesting content if you want to learn about that. So if you have those types of questions, definitely feed them to us.
Yeah, definitely do so. All right. We appreciate you guys joining in as always. I'll be back on Friday. I think Fibo's going to be with me. He said, he was gone the last few Fridays, personal stuff. So he said he thinks he'd probably be able to be back this Friday, the 7th. So I'll let you know for sure, probably tomorrow. But other than that, join in with there. Like I said, I got so many things coming up with TWC and content and stuff I'm going to be doing here. So you guys just keep following along for that. Probably going to start sectioning out some crypto stocks and in Forex kind of content out there as well. Live videos, stuff like that, all that kind of fun stuff. So take care. Remember, the only thing you control is how much you lose. That's it in trading and in life. That's really all you control, guys. So keep working on that risk management. Have an amazing week. Trade safe. And I guess we'll see what Trump says on Friday at the crypto thing, huh?
Sure, we'll have a lot to talk about.
All right. We'll see you guys next Wednesday. Take care. Peace out. Right.